Manouk Akopyan. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to our partners, personal injury attorney Nelson Gavorkian.
We're here with boxer head Ben Shalom. Ben, we're in Los Angeles, a far ways away from home from you, but we're here promoting the November 16 Latino Night event. Your guy, Chris Billam-Smith, trying to become a unified cruiserweight title holder against Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez. There's a lot of pressure, I'm sure, coming in as the B-side, as they say. It's a Golden Boy show, but the boxer label is all over the marquee here. What is Chris's mindset heading into this fight?
The good thing about Chris is he's been an underdog his whole career. When we first picked him up, we fought Isaac Chamberlain for the European title. He then went on some ridiculous run, became a star in the UK, probably sells more tickets than any other fighter outside of the heavyweight division in British boxing. Then fights Lawrence Akopyan. Lawrence Akopyan was considered the best cruiserweight in the world, bar none. Overcame him. Then Masterdat, overcame him. Then went into Richard Riappor's backyard in his stadium, in his football stadium, overcame him. So he's no stranger to being an underdog. We like this. He likes this. I don't know why he's an underdog. I don't know why he's not the favourite. He's been a cruiserweight his whole career, but that's exactly how it's been his whole career. And we're very, very confident.
Zurdo obviously beat light heavyweight champion, beat Gulamarian, who was inactive for quite a few years.
Yeah.
Obviously a different kind of fight with Billam-Smith being a career-long cruiserweight. What would be the plans after that for him? Because I know Noel Gavorkian has the WBC title. How would you go about moving his career moving forward?
Look, we'll see. I think unifications is all that's on order. This is such a tough fight, so we've got to focus on this one. But the one that the fans want to see is Jai Opetaia.
Right.
We recognise that. He's fighting another one of our guys, Jack Massey, on October the 12th, so he's got a tough fight as well. Jack Massey might win that. We could be looking at all British unification, but it is unifications, and whether that be at the stadium, in Chris Billam-Smith's home, where 20,000 come out every single time, or whether it be in Riyadh season again, His Excellency, what he is doing now in the sport, this setup, this Latino night, who would have ever thought we'd have a Latino night going to Riyadh? It's incredible. The main event's incredible. And this is a continuation of a journey in British boxing, one of the best stories in British boxing, Chris Billam-Smith, and it just goes on and on.
Perhaps a move to heavyweight one day. I know you have a lot of heavyweights on your roster as well, too.
Maybe. I think Lawrence Akopyan and Richard Riappor, who were previously cruiserweight, Chris's former opponents, they're 6'5", 6'6" guys, so it's very natural for them to go to heavyweight. This is the perfect division for Chris right now. We really believe he's top of the division. We really believe he can go out there and get every belt. So that's what we're thinking about now.
Let's talk about the big heavyweight on your roster, Martin Bakole. Obviously a big coming out party for him here in Los Angeles in August, beating Jared Anderson. Had a huge homecoming back home. What's next for Martin Bakole?
Hopefully we've got a big fight to announce in December. And
on the undercard of Usyk Fury?
I hope so. Look, it's been a whirlwind for Martin. We've had to be so patient. He's, for me, the most feared man in the division. He's the guy that no one wants to fight. And again, Riyadh season makes fights that look impossible possible. In what world would we have ever seen Jared Anderson fight Martin Bakole? In normal boxing terms, that doesn't happen. Thank God it did, because it was a statement, it was a platform that Martin needed. He announced himself to the world that night. We knew what was coming, but now the world knows what's coming, and I believe he can beat everyone in the division.
On the 21st, Zheli Zhang, perhaps?
I don't want to say too much. We'll see what happens, and Turkey Al-Sheikh, Riyadh season, and ourselves and the other promoters, hopefully you'll have something to announce very soon.
There's obviously Joseph Parker, quite a few guys who've made a name for themselves on Riyadh season, Agit Kabbalev, but with another guy that's going to be fighting on Riyadh season October 12 for you is Chris Eubank. He made some big headlines last week with the way he threw Hearn and Frank Warren under the bus. Where did all that animosity come from, you think?
Look, he's been in the game a long time. He knows how to make headlines. He knows how to drop bombs. Was it something that was helpful when all the promoters were trying to work together to create a card? Probably not. But no one's going to tell Chris Eubank Jr. what to do. He's an old school British mentality, I guess. If you think back to the David Hayes, the Dillian Whites, the Derek Chisoras, you can't tell them what to do. You can't tell them what to say. He's box office. That's what he is.
He's definitely promotes his fights pretty well. He was kind of close to getting that Canelo Alvarez fight last year. Any updates on what the future could look like for Canelo, Chris Eubank?
I think it will happen next year. I really believe that. I think for us, he's been out the ring for a year. He got given 6 or 7 weeks notice. He's a big star anyway. He earns big money anyway. He's not the type that you can tempt into the ring for a payday. He's made a fortune in the sport. He wants to go into that fight to win. And so he wants to go into that fight prepared. He's got a big fight on October the 12th against Carlos Arameta, and then it's the big fights only, and Canelo's top of the list.
That's the fight that brings Canelo to the UK, you think?
I believe that is the one fight, if Canelo Alvarez wants to cement his legacy, because believe me, British boxing fans absolutely adore him. He's beaten all of our guys, right? That's the fight that sells out Wembley Stadium in the UK against Chris Eubank Jr. So let's see if it makes sense.
May and September are his dates. What would be an ideal date outside of that for Canelo?
May or September is fine. Whether in Vegas, whether in the UK, Chris is ready for that fight, and hopefully it will happen next year.
He's running out of opponents. Do you think Chris would be next in line after this fight?
I think so. I think for me, he's the biggest. Brings his own audience, and that's very rare for Canelo's opponents. You know, Canelo of course is the A side, but Chris Eubank Jr. is a pay-per-view star in his own right. One of the few, probably the only one in British boxing outside the heavyweight division who can turn up and is a pay-per-view. That's a big sell. He's got the history, everyone knows his dad. You've seen how he talks up a fight. A press conference between those two would be absolutely gold. And so, yeah, I think I can see how it makes sense for both guys. Very close to happening in September. Hopefully it can happen in May.
What was the biggest stumbling block for it not to happen this last go-around?
Money and time. Mm-hmm. Money and time. And Chris being out the ring for a year.
Right. So it seems like everything would be straightened out for the upcoming
Correct.
fight.
If they've still got the motivation, which I believe they do, I genuinely believe the fight will happen next year, whether in May or September.
Mm-hmm. And Ben Whitaker on the undercard?
He is the superstar. You talk about superstars. He's the future of maybe, definitely British boxing, maybe world boxing. And he fights on October the 12th in Riyadh. And then hopefully we're bringing him over to the US for our first US show. The numbers he's doing over here, the guy's had 7 fights, all in the UK. And yet everyone knows who he is in the US. It's incredible. I've never seen it with a fighter before.
Yeah, he seems like the perfect social media generation fighter because of his highlight-worthy clips.
And we need that because boxing has to get into that younger demographic. It has to get them interested. We see it with the YouTubers. We see it with UFC. We need the stars in boxing that understand that audience, and he does.
A short list of opponents in 2025 for him. What do you think are some ideal progressive steps up for him?
We have a lot of light heavyweights. Dan Aziz is fighting Louis Edmondson on October the 19th on the Adam Azim card, another show the Golden Boy are involved in with O'Hara Davis. We've got to look at those domestic opponents. I think look at British titles next year. There's a lot of names with Boatsi, who's just won an interim world title, also on our roster. You've got Anthony Yardia, you've got Lyndon Arthur. There's big names there, but the thing with Ben, from a star perspective, he's in a league of his own, and so he's got to get the development right. He's still very early on. To have this many people talking about you at this stage of your career is phenomenal, but that doesn't mean we're going to rush. We've got the chance to create a superstar of boxing, and we're going to do that.
Maybe a 2-fight deal. You fight Chris Eubank, and then Canelo moves up to light heavyweight for Ben Whitaker.
Fingers crossed. In a dream world, hopefully we'll see that.
Absolutely.
Cheers,
Thank you very much for the